Naruto, 10 times Sakura earned Sasuke's respect. Beneath the surface, there is a bond of trust and understanding between Sasuke and Sakura that only they share. Throughout the entire Naruto series, the relationship between Sasuke and Sakura has been one of the most dynamic, yet perplexing. It is a relationship that fans have either loved or hated and is one of the hardest to understand. The constant distance between the two has left some to wonder if they love each other at all. However, beneath the surface, there is a bond of trust and understanding between Sasuke and Sakura that only they share. This connection between them was built slowly throughout the story as the two grew to know one another. Through this process, Sakura proved herself to Sasuke and earned a place by his side. 10. Sakura's encouragement from the beginning. Though he initially pushed her affection away, Sakura's care for Sasuke reached him from the early days of Team 7. He remained distant but was able to see that Sakura had a sense of understanding towards him. This understanding built trust between them. He trusted her enough to open up to her in ways he hadn't before. Sakura's love gave him something he missed in life since the death of his family and allowed him to let others in again. 9. She pushed her limits for the team. Though Sakura may have been the weakest of the trio, she still could hold her own in a fight. She was fiercely protective of Sasuke and Naruto and stopped at nothing to ensure their safety and keep the team together. Even when up against an opponent she had no hope of defeating, Sakura never backed down. Sasuke knew this about her and had seen it in action countless times. He knew her loyalty to their team ran deep and that even with her weaknesses, she didn't allow anything to stop her from doing what she could. 8. Sakura's support during the Chunin exams arc. During the Chunin exams, Sakura played a major support role for Team 7 and especially for Sasuke. She stood by him during his suffering. Even being the only one with the knowledge of the cursed seal of heaven that he received from Orochimaru. She used this knowledge to watch over him carefully, pulling him back from the seal's control. Though he had to make her promise not to tell anyone of his mark, Sasuke still knew he could trust Sakura. She cared for him and only wanted to help him. Her support allowed him to push through and control the mark on his own. 8. Sakura's support during the Chunin exams arc. During the Chunin exams, Sakura played a major support role for Team 7 and especially for Sasuke. She stood by him during his suffering. Even being the only one with the knowledge of the cursed seal of heaven that he received from Orochimaru. She used this knowledge to watch over him carefully, pulling him back from the seal's control. Though he had to make her promise not to tell anyone of his mark, Sasuke still knew he could trust Sakura. She cared for him and only wanted to help him. Her support allowed him to push through and control the mark on his own. 6. Sakura's willingness to follow him as he leaves. When Sasuke finally decided to leave Konoha, Sakura not only begged him to stay but went so far as to offer to go with him. She was willing to leave everything she knew behind to help him achieve his goal. Though Sasuke was determined to take his revenge alone, this act showed him that Sakura's devotion was true. She once again showed him the love he had missed with the loss of his family, and it was something he carried with him even after he left and was one of the reasons he aimed to sever his ties with his teammates. The fact that Sasuke knew how devoted Sakura was to him was all the more reason for him to push her away. 5. Sakura can acknowledge her limitations. Though Sakura loved Sasuke even when he was gone, there came a time she knew her love wasn't enough to save him. She was able to admit that to him directly while reaffirming her love for him. Sakura knew she couldn't understand Sasuke enough to help him, only Naruto was capable of that now. Admitting this and stepping back was exactly what he needed from her. This gave Sasuke the chance to find an answer for himself and ultimately return to their sides. When Team 7 did reunite, Sakura was the one Sasuke acknowledged upon his return. Later on into their relationship, this mutual understanding between them still remained as Sasuke journeyed for atonement. 4. Sakura's display of power on the battlefield. When Team 7 reunited during the war, it was like old times again. The trio picked up right where they left off, working together as they had before. Both Naruto and Sasuke couldn't help but notice Sakura's increased strength. With her power put on display, Sasuke gave a little impressed smirk at her abilities. Despite their power, Sakura could hold her own by their sides. She was hardly a match for either of them, but Sasuke still told Naruto not to drag both him and Sakura down, showing he trusted her competency on the battlefield. 3. Her diversion attack at Madara. With the trio facing off against Madara, Sakura gave Naruto and Sasuke a much-needed diversion, putting herself at risk for the team. Sasuke used this diversion to their advantage, making his move against Madara. Sakura noticed that Sasuke appeared unconcerned for her safety. Despite her insecurities, the fact that he was unconcerned shows the level of trust he had in her. There was no reason for him to worry because Sakura could fend for herself even in the greatest danger. 2. Her impressive chakra use. The amount of chakra control Sakura had throughout the series was unmatched. This was even more true after she trained with Tsunade. During Kagaya's attack, she used this to her advantage to reclaim Sasuke from the dimension where he was trapped. Sasuke barely made it back, swapping places with Sakura's discarded jacket. As he returned, though, he thanked her for her efforts. If not for her immense reserve chakra and precise control, Sasuke would never have had a chance to make it back to them. She proved yet again that her abilities were crucial to their team. 1. She still accepted him. After everything Sasuke did, Sakura still forgave and loved him. Up until then, only Naruto had shown him such acceptance. He still had no clue if others would accept him, especially Sakura. But when he sought forgiveness, she readily gave it. It was the beginning of his redemption, and Sakura had shown him that he could come back. And when he did, he had somewhere he could belong. This acceptance from Sakura was the reason he returned to Konoha in Boruto, Naruto Next Generations. Without it and without her, he would have no reason to stay. But because of their mutual trust and respect, he now had a family to return to.